Hi, I'm Josh Harris, Associate State Director for AARP Illinois. We're so glad to welcome you to this exciting event. AARP knows this pandemic has been trying on us all, threatening the health and financial security of millions of Americans 50 plus. That's why it is our pleasure to bring you this night of levity, some fine art, and great music to help us all recharge, connect, and address some of the social isolation we know people are feeling at this time. It's our way of reminding you that AARP Illinois is here for you, fighting to protect 50 plus voters and make your voice heard on the issues that matter. Protecting Social Security and Medicare, lowering prescription drug prices, and ensuring you can vote safely from home or in person. So enjoy the next 2 hours with Gallery Gashard, 95.1 Chicago, and the talented Nick Coleon and Teresa Griffin. And in the days leading up to the election, know that you can visit aarp.org/il for more information to help you vote safe in 2020 and make your voice heard.
Hi, my name is Alan Emerson Hicks. Let me try that again. Hi, my name is Alan Emerson Hicks. I am an art illusionist, creator of temporal sculpture, destroyer of videotape. And what I wanted to talk about tonight was my temporal sculpture work. And what do I mean by temporal sculpture? I mean a sculpture that actually has a time element to it. And if you look at all of the pieces here, these pieces all have a time element to it. And I want to talk about each one of those different aspects of my work, okay? This first piece here is called Frostbite. And it's a big sculpture here. It's made with plastic coat hangers and found materials, heat manipulated plastic coat hangers and found materials. It is life size, and it was actually done on site at Robert Morris University, the State Street Gallery. And I call this a temporal sculpture because the show that it was in ran for 2 months. And when the sculpture was first presented, it was just the skeleton of the work. And during the course of those 2 months, I actually worked on this piece, and at the end of the show, it was actually a finished piece of sculpture. And what this allows me to do is it allows me to take my studio experience out of the studio and present it to the world or out to an audience, and I enjoy that aspect of making art. And a lot of this work is about that experience, creating work in front of an audience to eyes and to questions and to commentary. Because a lot of times when we're in our studios, we don't get that feedback. And a lot of times, being in the studio is a very solitary kind of experience. So I enjoy making this more of a communal experience. And this Friday at our trolley tour, our next trolley tour, I will be creating a work of art in the aspect of my magician persona. When I go on stage in front of an audience and I give myself a certain amount of time to make a piece of sculpture, I become a character known as Magician, and that's Magician with a J. And he creates work in front of an audience, live in front of an audience. So let me talk about some of the other sculptures. So this sculpture is called Frostbite, and it was done over a 2-month period of time, which is, and I do it on site, but also some of it is done also in my studio because I have to heat manipulate a lot of the materials in my studio. So what I do is I take materials in my studio, I form them, and then I bring them out to the site where I'm working on it, and then I add them to it. So It's so people that are walking along State Street where the gallery was, they see this piece of sculpture in different stages, and I know people that have followed me through all of the stages and taken pictures, and it's just a nice experience. Let's see, the next piece I want to talk about, I did a couple of shows in Germany, and I have a couple of pieces from the shows that I did in Germany, and they were also considered temporal sculptures. This piece is called American Tower. And what it basically is about is taking American detritus, which is basically a really fancy word for trash, taking American detritus, bringing it, introducing it to a German gallery, and then creating a work of art from it. Now this piece, I worked on it in my studio. And when I went to Germany on the trip, I actually packed this away in a suitcase. So this piece was compressed, well, it was all undone, and it was placed in a suitcase where it was very easily transportable to Germany. And then once I got to the studio, once I got to the gallery space where I was going to be showing this work, I assembled it. I assembled it there on the spot. I think this piece, in the gallery space, it took me 8 hours to assemble, although it was several hours in the studio. So that's another example of my temporal sculpture. So it was, and I like this idea of the transformation, having it in one combination or whatever, in a suitcase, compact, and then bringing it out. So I did have to ship it back to America. So and it cut down on shipping. So I only had to ship it one way, actually. So that is American Tower. Oops. And my second trip to Germany, I had this radical idea that not only would I create the work once I got to Germany, but I would find all the materials that I needed for the artwork in Germany also. So this process started the minute I got on the plane, leaving America, going into Germany. And this is one of the pieces that came from that experience. And what these are a collection of plastic water bottles that I found in Germany. And I took packaging tape with me to Germany. So, and we were on a 2-day sabbatical in Zika, Germany, and we had a show in Berlin. So I actually worked on this. I had 2 days to work on this piece. Not only this piece, but I did a couple other pieces, but this was like the main sculpture that I worked on. And so this piece was done over a 2-day period in Germany. I didn't go with any materials, the only material I went with was actually the packaging tape that I packed in my suitcase. And I didn't go with any other materials, any other thoughts or ideas. And I wanted to be inspired by what I found in Germany. And this is the main piece that I came up with. And like I said, it was done over a 2-day period sabbatical that we did. And I wound up showing maybe 5, 6 pieces, because I did some 2-dimensional pieces. Like what I did was with the bottles, I took the labels off the bottles, I made collages with the labels, I did, so I'd had this whole process where I made 5 pieces of artwork out of, in a 2-day period, from detritus that I found in Germany. And this piece is called Bird in Flight. Once I started working on it, it reminded me of Brancusi. I don't know if you're familiar with Brancusi, but Brancusi is a French sculptor, and he worked with he worked with metals and other materials or whatever. But yeah, it just reminded me of one of his pieces. So that's Bird in Flight. Now I'm going to get into my more performative works. These works take less than a half an hour. This is a piece called Flotalata. And Flotalata was the name of the space that we actually had our show in. So the show that I did this for, I actually made this sculpture during a 15, 20 minute, like these pieces take maybe 15, 20 minutes to make. And it is the destruction of videotape. So what I do is, this piece is called Flotalata, the destruction of How to Kill Your Wife and Red River. So it was actually a videotape that was like, had movies taped on it. So I kind of used that as a part of the title. And this was just basically, it was a videotape that people recorded movies on. And if you see a performance, I usually use music. In the performance with this piece, I was working with a two-piece band. I think it was a horns and maybe a drum set was there. And I let the music kind of lead me through the piece. So that is Flotalata. It was a nice piece. And I have several pieces like this. So. And now the final piece is something more like what I'm going to be doing at the next Trolley tour. And this is one of my bigger major pieces, performance pieces, as it were. And this is done in front of audience. It's usually between 20 to 30 minutes time. And I call myself an art illusionist because although it takes me 20 to 30 minutes to make this piece, it's actually maybe 10 to 12 hours setup time. And don't you know how magicians, they have to set up an illusion for you. And that's what I'm actually doing. I'm setting up this illusion to make it appear as if it takes me 20 minutes to make it, when it actually takes me more like 10 to 12 hours, plus the 20 minutes. And that's not counting the music, if I have to put the music behind it and arrange music and stuff like that. So this piece, if you can see, it's called Inhale, the Destruction of Waiting to Exhale. And with these pieces, when I use a movie in the videotape form, when I use the movie, I like to use the soundtrack from that movie to create the piece. And this soundtrack, Waiting to Exhale, has an excellent soundtrack. And I think, I can't think of them. At one point during my performances, I float videotape around the room with a fan. And I think there's a song on this soundtrack called Let It Go by, I think, Tony Braxton, maybe? Let it go, something. Well, anyway, very dramatic during my videotape fanning sequence. So I enjoyed really making this piece. So there you have it. This is my oeuvre, my repertoire of temporal sculptures in many different facets. So you have, and my ultimate timepiece would be a piece that I did. I did two of these, and they've both been destroyed, but they were passion pieces, and they were called time machines. And those pieces I actually gave myself a year to create, and then the following year they become this static piece of sculpture. Kind of like this piece, but so this is my temporal sculptures. So, and it's showing you from 2 months to 8 hours to 2 days, 8 hours, 30 minutes, 20 minutes. So I work with time. That's my thing. I work with found materials and time. And it was actually the use of time that made me draw to the materials that I use now. Because once I started working with time, I started feeling like I needed to work with materials that were more time-based, things that weren't as permanent as marble and wood and these other things. So that's when I started working with found materials. So